Good evening, my name's Tim. It's good to meet you. Tonight's video started as a bit of a curiosity that I had. You see, for 230 US dollars or 308 Australian dollars, you can buy from Sony a brand new Handycam video camera in 2022. And I was just so curious as to how much video camera $300 will buy you. And I'm not sure about you, but I film most of my video on my phone now. What does a video camera, let alone a entry-level $300 video camera, offer that might differentiate it from what I imagine most of you are using to film things, and what I use to film things, which is that. And tonight's video is all about that. But rather than do a bunch of camera tests and give it a ranking, what I decided to do instead, somewhat inspired by the Neistat brothers and their old TV series that they did on HBO, I've made 6 short movies, and each one focuses on an aspect of this $300 camera that Sony makes. So it's going to be a pretty casual video. I'm just going to roll these little movies and check back in with you in between them and share a couple thoughts on how I think the camera went. Every shot from this point onwards, excluding the next film, which is about the camera's design, so it's fairly difficult to film the camera with itself. I filmed that first film on my phone. Every other shot you're going to see, including this one, is filmed with this Handycam. This crazy little $300 Handycam. But without further ado, let's jump into the first movie. I hope you've got a cup of tea, or a beer if that's more your thing. Let's roll the first movie. I'm a huge fan of Sony's design language. The functional minimalism, the smooth lines, the subtle material changes, and of course the logos and text that quietly yet proudly proclaim the capabilities of each product. Trinitron, Full HD 1080, Blu-ray disc, and in this camera's case, wide-angle lens, Zeiss optics, HD, 60x clear image zoom, and Dolby Stereo Creator. Each of these logos proudly proclaim a camera feature. The design is classic Sony. It's subtle but smooth, with well-placed lines and material breaks. There is a manual lens cap, stereo microphones on the front, a traditional zoom rocker, and a record button that's ready for your thumb in just the right spot. The LCD is sufficiently bright and vibrant. But it does lack the higher resolution of Sony's clear image LCDs from their more premium cameras. This is a comparison to give you some idea. Take note of the pixel density. There's no touchscreen here, so navigation is done through a joystick, and all of this is accompanied by just a simple playback mode key. A door opens to reveal micro HDMI out and a memory slot with both micro SD and M2 compatibility. Live streamers, and particularly those in the church live streaming game, will be thankful to hear that once you turn off a setting, the HDMI is a clean HDMI out, a rarity on cameras at this price point. I've used this camera a couple times in a church livestream context, and found it to be a fantastic performer for the price. However, sound is not outputted on camera mode through HDMI, so for live streamers an external mic is still needed. The battery is a smaller X-type battery,
and it will typically run the camera anywhere from 60 to 100 minutes. Running on the high bitrate mode, I find it's much closer to the 60-minute mark, but as you will see later on, the quality is well worth the sacrifice. An AV output allows composite output, and a handy male USB is built into the hand strap with an extender included to make things more practical. The camera can run off USB power, but will need a minimum of 5 volts and 800 milliamps to support recording. The included AC adapter works well for this purpose, and most of my power banks have been able to support the camera as well. In the hand, it's a comfortable camera. It's lightweight and so small that you can even fit it in a pocket with a loose enough pair of pants. When I handed it to a friend who's had a few Handycams in his time, he found himself immediately at home.
It feels right, let me tell you, it feels right. I've forgotten how good it was with the Handycam.
And of course, as anyone would with a classic video camera, he began to play with the power zoom.
Oh, I love that old zoom, yes.
You see what I mean? You can get carried away with it.
You really can.
You can just start going, oh yeah. Then you go to there and say, well, you got nothing but zoom.
It's such a smooth zoom.
All round, it's a well-built camera, as you would expect from Sony.
So, there you go. I mean, the camera really is not anything crazy high-end. I don't think that's to be expected at the price point anyway, but it's well built, it feels good in the hand, and it has that classic camcorder feeling, you know? You got your hand strap, you got your power zoom. It's just a video camera, you know? I love that last shot with my friend Ali there. Just the moment he had it in his hand, he goes, yeah, it feels right, you know? And he summarized it perfectly. It's hard to describe the feeling of a camcorder, you know? Our next movie is all about the camera's overall video quality, okay? So one of the things that makes this camera stand out amongst its entry-level contemporaries is the fact that it can pull off 50 megabit per second HD video. 50 megabits a second for HD video is a wildly high bitrate. What all of that translates to is footage that is exceptionally sharp for a camera of its price point. This second movie is a very traditional camera test. It's giving the camera lots of best case scenarios to show off that high bitrate mode. And this entire video, for reference, is filmed in the high bitrate mode at 50 megabits a second, so the whole video in itself will be a test. But let's have a look. Let's see how this camera goes. you find that? Personally, this was the thing that amazed me the most about this little video camera. Now, don't get me wrong, phones these days can shoot in 4K and some in even 8K, but resolution isn't everything. Bit rate is a big deal. And as you can see in that last little comparison there with the fountain, you could see the difference between that high bitrate footage and just the difference that 25 extra megabits per second can make. I have, in this case, a 4.5K display on my Macintosh here, and the image, despite being an HD image, is exceptionally sharp because of that high bitrate mode. So it's a pretty cool thing for a camera of this price point to be able to do. Anyway, on to our next movie, which is, of course, a test of how the camera handles low light. Now, what I've done here is I've gone to a very little secret bar in Sydney and threw this camera into the deep end because this bar is extremely dimly lit, and just saw what the camera was able to do. So join with me and let's see how this little fella handles low light.
To test the low light ability of this camera, I thought I would take you to a secret bar. So this is the kind of bar that you wouldn't find unless someone showed it to you. You know, I was in the city with my friend Oxter Music, and I was saying, oh, you know, let's get a drink somewhere. And he said, you know, I know a place. And let me tell you, this bar is like the ultimate I know a place. It starts by going down the secret alley. I tell you, this camera, as if this camera had a couple drinks too. Look at it, I can't focus for shit right now. And that was the secret bar.
Well, what do you reckon? I think the camera did its best. I think this camera's sensor isn't huge, and considering the price point it's at, I think it managed to capture the atmosphere. I think some of the shots, like the ones where something was really well lit in frame, like the candle shot that I have here, right? I think the camera did pretty admirably on shots like that, right? But the shots like that with the bar, I mean, you saw the footage, pretty noisy. If you're gonna get a camera for shooting lots of low light, maybe spending a bit of extra money, getting something with a bigger sensor. This camera's specialty is probably not low light, but it can do it in a pinch. This next movie is where we are gonna test the camera's microphone. For this movie, what I did is go into the city and film a couple buskers, or street musicians. I asked them first, okay, and I gave them both a little bit of money. It was such a great test for this little camera because it really tested the microphone, and it just captured something really beautiful, I think. One of the things that this camera, I guess, boasts or has on the box is this Dolby Stereo Creator, right? Now, it has just 2 mics on the front, but I from what I can assume, this Dolby Stereo Creator takes those 2 mics and kind of places the channels in a bit more of a 3D space so that there's more of a separation. I honestly have no idea, but that's my understanding of it. And I'd love you to look out for that as you watch this. Put some headphones on and ask yourself, are the objects that are coming past the camera, does it sound as if something's off in the left or something's off in the right? Let's roll the mic test.
overhead, I'm over this, yeah, I'm over this shit, can't cope with this, so weak to swear, but I can beat me, and I'm over this, yeah, blowing so sweet like a lotus, yes, you best be over this, yeah, got my man Ruby, we get groovy in the middle of the street, yeah, break rolls up the top of the dome, I'm flow with the Holy Ghost, living for the Holy Spirit, straight gift to play big man on a mission, yeah, if you don't like religion, ain't about that, ain't about that raps, power rap, ain't about smacking back with the power rap, yeah, yeah. So live it, feel it, yeah. Take that moment and own it and zone it, hone it, zone it, yeah. I'm just feeling it, yeah. Hide in this him band, I'm rising up higher. That's my desire, got the fire in my heart, yeah. With the bars, don't know where to start, I've been going hard, yeah. I'm a large since a kid, I got abused, and that's the truth. Got that bad, slap that, tap that, like rack that, yeah. I talk about anything other than love. Off the top, I spit it off the top, yeah. I know, drugs, stay on top. I'm the number one, upon the sun, with the wonder force, ports of sun. Our love is gone, yeah. So, put your hands up, up, up. Put your hands up, up, up. Put your hands up, 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 up. Yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah. That movie is probably my favorite. How did you feel about the camera and how the microphone system did? I am so far from a sound expert, but I think what it did really well was it captured the atmosphere. And the stereo separation, that Dolby Stereo Creator, whatever it does, it seems to work well. Because the tram coming past, in those early shots with Rafa the pianist, it was just so clear that from the sound, if you shut your eyes, that the tram was coming right on the right-hand side. Like the left channel got no sound, despite the mics being sitting right next to each other. So I think the camera handled that really well. Even just that, in the last bit here, where the mystery rapping guest appears, God bless this man's heart, whoever he is, just hearing like the street crossing off to the right, and the way that was really well separated across the channels, I think was really cool. Anyway, make your own judgment upon how the mic system did, but personally, I think pretty darn good for a $300, $230 US video camera. Let's dive in now to the zoom test. Now, this is something I think where a camcorder is always going to have an edge over a smartphone, because it's literally just physics. It's industrial design. To have really good zoom, you have to have the room to put in a zoom lens. That's my understanding of it. So I think this is something that this camera does remarkably well. It has 25x optical zoom, and to test it, I tell you what I'm going to do in the movie, so I'll let the movie speak for itself, but I basically went to a very high place and zoomed into things. I hope you'll enjoy this zoom test of this little Handycam. Today, to test the zoom of this little Handycam, I'm going to go up Sydney Tower. I'm pretty excited because I haven't gone up Sydney Tower since I was a little kid, and I've lived here in Sydney my entire life, so the time that I did go up, I didn't really know what I was looking at. I was just like, oh wow, this is high up. The last time that I was in that tower, it was called Centerpoint Tower. I'm excited. I think it's going to be interesting. This guy's excited too, but it looks like he may be frozen in time. Someone's just got to find the remote there. So you used to enter this tower through a shopping center called Centerpoint, and that's why it was called Centerpoint Tower. But now you enter through Westfield, Sydney, and I think it's called the Sydney Tower Eye. I have no idea how to get up it, so this might take a while. I'll catch up with you again once we've figured that out, okay? Well, how'd you find that? If it isn't immediately obvious from this film, I never tire of a good power zoom. Like, my favourite shot in all of this was the shot on top of the building with these gentlemen, where it's one shot here with them talking, right? And then, by the end of the shot, it's a completely different shot. It's the whole city skyline, right? And to be able to do that in one take, I reckon it's pretty darn cool. A video camera like this, 25x optical zoom, does it flawlessly. Now, this camera does, like most video cameras, go way beyond that if you're going into digital zoom, but I don't consider digital zoom zoom. Anyway, our last movie, before we come back to conclude, is a fun one. Now, it's by far the longest of all these movies because it's, if I'm honest, I love this movie so much I didn't want to leave anything out. Really what this movie tests is how this camera does in a environment where there's no tripod and you're just handing it to someone new and saying, hey, can you film me? I guess if you were to point it to a feature, it would be a handheld test or a test of the camera's optical steady shot. Anyway, without further ado, the last movie before we wrap up. Hello. Today I am heading over to see a good friend of mine. He wanted to get some CRT looking shots for his latest video. We have the gear here, we have an Xbox 360, the video monitor here, and of course the Honda Civic. As one viewer of the channel said, the Dell Optiplex of cars to get us there. With EMP/Harley, a local musician and good friend of mine, and he's been nice enough to hold the camera as I set up a little CRT for him, and he wanted to get some shots for his latest music video. We're going to set it up, and as we do it, we're going to kind of test the steady shot of this camera, right? So join with us, all right? So here is the Sony PVM, right? Professional video monitor. Now these are pretty familiar in the TV environment, and recently they've become very popular for retro gaming. I was lucky enough to get mine back when you could get one for $80. Now that is unthinkable. So let's start off over here at this wonderful space that we have set up with a small rug, which is I don't know. I like where the rug is now. I almost don't want to interrupt it.
You know what? Maybe let's leave it. Yeah.
What do you think?
Maybe the CRT can sit.
Should it sit next to the rug?
Maybe
Should it complement the rug, or should it sit on top?
Let's sit on top. Let's sit on top. It's a very like grandma kind of like thing to have done, you know? Like.
Well, if you want the full grandma, what you do, right? You should do this.
On top.
That's the full grandma.
That is the full grandma.
You gotta have, because back in the day, you go to grandma's place, you have like there'd be like some sort of artifact on top of the television.
Yeah, that's right. All it's missing now is just like the cookies, like that tin of
This is right, a tin of cookies, you know, some family photos, wood grain. There we go. So,
nice.
What's powering this guy is an Xbox 360.
Sudo's just setting up a CRT.
Just plugging in CRT. Get some shots, you know.
I mean, this is exactly what's happening right now.
Some people, right, when you turn on a camera, right, they literally change personalities, and you can't, like, I can't escape it. I try my best in front of the camera to be very like authentic. I should talk to them. I try to be very authentic, right? But even now, I find myself going into like a bit of a like, oh,
like a presenter mode.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But
It happens.
I-
You can spend hours just trying to coach someone to go back to their normal self, or at least some slight variation so that they're not as rigid and robotic. You know?
It is, and you gotta. I think it's the skill of a good director to get someone loose enough for it. All right.
Which is this the Halo Xbox?
Yeah. So this is Xbox 360. This is the Halo 3 edition. The Halo 3 edition 360. People either love or hate. It's described often as it looks like a piece of trash because of the green. Like it literally looks like a garbage bag, but like
it does a little bit,
but
but
it's
it's got
supposed
that.
to be the Master Chief. Like
It's
theme.
got that Master Chief.
It's got this
theme,
kind of like ship theme, but unfortunately my 360 is somewhere else, so I only have this guy.
Wait, so whose 360 is this then?
Oh, I have. Viewers of the channel will know that I have several Xbox 360s. It's a console that I think has just served me well. Even today, setting up, right? I was trying to use a PS3 for this, right? PS3 was not playing ball, and I just thought, you know what? I know what'll bloody work, right?
Trusty.
Where's the Xbox 360? Where is it? And
That's actually really strange that the
that's it.
360 was working better with the Sony CRT than the Sony PlayStation 3.
normally never the case. Like
Yeah.
the PS3 looked great on there. I was playing a DVD and it looked incredible. But when it came to just media playback and the USB stick I was using, you know how Sony products sometimes they're great, but sometimes they don't want to play ball unless it's their way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's our format, it's our connection. You don't do it our way. Guess what? Bad luck. We ain't gonna work. You know, so that's what it was.
It's
And then
one of those moments.
the 360 was just like, nah, that's alright. Yeah, you got a USB stick in here, that's alright. You want me to play it? Alright. So the 360, right, has a power brick. Look at that. Look at that. That is a
It's a chunk.
it's a 203 watt
Solid.
power brick. That is a
Oofed.
yeah. Look at the heft of that. That is
Yeah.
that's my hand there. That's a wow.
That's a real solid power brick.
This is like a this is not an environmentally friendly product. This is what I love about the 360, right? So it's got on it, you've got a connector that has already you can control the resolution from that,
Yep.
right? Goes straight in,
Yeah, I love that too about the
You know?
360.
and then you've just got this big guy which has every possible connector you would want. You got component video, and we've got composite video.
Yep.
And I vote, Ali, I think we should do the component because it's going to look better.
I think so too, actually.
It'll look better. So on a PVM, right, we got an absolute array of inputs, right? Absolute array, right? So S-video, and then these connections here, right? These are called BNC, right? Mm-hmm. So this is an old-fashioned kind of studio connection, and I've used converters to get them back to RCA. This is a connection that locks in.
Oh, it's one of those.
It's called BNC.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in studio use, you had to have a lock-in connection like that because people run around tripping on shit. You know, things get disconnected. You need to lock them in. So anyway, we're going to go red, blue, green. And this guy, PVMs have a tiny speaker in it. It's pathetic, but it's like, it's just enough to hear what the sound is.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't expect, and I don't know why I didn't expect. It was just how long
Yeah.
this unit would be.
Yeah, the PVMs are, there's a lot of electronics in there. And they can actually, if you look on the back, they can take 2 batteries there as well.
Oh, really?
So this, because they're designed for film set use, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of these. You'd have 2 of these in like a hard case with batteries running them, so that you could, the director could have a couple of these in front, see the camera, yell at the actors, whatever they need to do in front of their little PVMs, But nowadays, obviously it's very, very cheap and easy to get, a preview monitor that's very good.
Yep.
And these have now been relegated to retro gaming. And unfortunately, all these people who are playing retro games are now adults, so they have money. And there's lots of them, so demand actually outweighs supply.
Yep.
This is something people forget about CRTs. Okay, you ready? That sound.
Oh, that sound, yeah.
People forget that CRTs made this sound the entire time they were operating.
That's right.
It doesn't go away.
It's almost like the ringing in the ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already the viewers are probably thinking, damn it, Tim. Why don't you edit this out? But this, I don't edit it out because this is what CRTs are like. You need to be reminded, viewers, that if you're turning on one of these, this is what you're gonna hear.
It is quite like I forgot how deafening it was.
Yeah.
Like it's a very all-encompassing kind of sound.
Oh yeah, but in about 10 minutes you'll be used to it.
Yeah.
You won't notice it's there.
Man, it makes me wonder, or it makes me sort of wish I could go back in time and just remember what it was like when all the houses were just emitting this noise.
This high-pitched noise.
This high-pitched noise.
We forget that it existed. But this is it. You ready for the 360?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a bit of nostalgia for you.
Oh, look at it.
How sharp is it?
Wow. And of course, it's on this camera, it's
Yeah, because we haven't set the frame rate.
There
and
it
now
is.
we're going to dive into Ollie's part, and we're going to get his excellent shots of this, and I might take the camera to see the master at work in front of some old technology here. So what do you have here?
This is the A7 III, and it's got the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 on it,
Love it.
which is getting a bit old, but you can see.
Sony, filming a Sony. The problem with the zoom is I get too into zooms. I do too many of them, and I get to the editing computer and I'm like, damn it, Tim, it's all zooms.
I know that feeling, man. I enjoy my zooms too.
You got overboard on the zooms.
Oh, the zooms.
You're begging for like one still shot. And you're just like, damn it, there isn't a single one. Everything was zooms.
It's too fun. I mean, it's
fun.
hard not to stop yourself from zooming.
It is. Wow. I hope that was fun for you there. Now, this entire movie was 99.9% of it has been shot on this camera. This camera we're reviewing. There is only one shot in this movie where I shot it on my phone. It's this one here, right? Just as we're coming up to the end. Just because I think it kind of fit the flow of things. But everything else here was shot on the camera, and I think it did remarkably well in a context where it was just handed to my friend who, okay, maybe he wasn't the best subject for this because he is a video guy as well, but I think the camera did well in this little scenario where it was just a casual kind of filming, and I think the footage came out really nice and really smooth, and the focus I think kept up really beautifully with what was going on. Now, to wrap up, I'd love to give a really definitive answer as to whether you should buy this camera or not, but the reality is only you know whether you should. If you are someone who would like to have power zoom, would like to have something separate to your phone that you can use to record family occasions, weddings, events, or just a neat, decent little video camera that you can put down and film something with, this is an awesome camera for the price. You can get it brand new for
as I said at the start, 230 US, 308 Australian. I mean, it's wild. And I think the video quality that it puts out for a camera that is brand new at that price point is really very good. Remarkable, in fact. If you're a church live streaming person, I think it's an interesting camera, and that's why I originally bought it. Because it does have clean HDMI out with 0 delay, right? You can use it, hook it up to a Blackmagic A10 Mini, and a couple of these things in a mic or two, and you have yourself a fantastic church live streaming system. I think if you're someone who has watched this and said, well, I don't need power zoom, I don't need a dedicated video camera, my phone is reasonably recent, it takes good video, you probably don't need an entry-level Sony Handycam. But I made this video because I think technology like this at the lower end, the entry-level technology, doesn't get enough attention. And I think that's what this whole Greenham Gaming channel is about. It's about giving attention and giving a shout out to technology that is more affordable, right? And showing that you can pull off some pretty amazing things without having to spend huge amounts of money. And I think cameras like this prove that. Cameras like this show you don't have to spend a crazy amount to have decent video quality. And I hope you enjoyed this little camera review, even if you're someone who's not interested in cameras at all. I tried to make this video in a way where you would enjoy it, even if you're not into camera videos. I tried to make it as far from a typical camera review as possible, whilst still reviewing the camera. Haha! Gotcha there. Jeez. Anyway, I really thank you for watching. I thank you for your patience. I know I don't make these videos very frequently, but I hope you can tell that I put love into them, and I try really hard to make them as good as they can be. I'm only one guy with his Mac, you know, I don't have a team here. I had fun making this video, so I hope you had fun watching it. Thanks again for watching, and good night.